Welcome to Be Me with Shari Ware, the podcast where each day is a step towards a better you and where we focus on progress, not perfection. Join me as we embark on a journey of self-improvement and wellness, focusing on being just a little better than we were yesterday. Hello. Welcome to episode 31 of the Be Me podcast. I'm Shari Ware, your host, and in this episode we are talking about melatonin. Boost melatonin for restful sleep and all-day energy. And I don't know about you, but I like the idea of all-day energy. So when I was doing research on this topic and looking for a quote, I really like to find quotes for each topic. I found one from Dr. Matthew Walker. He wrote a best-selling book called Why We Sleep, Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. And I'll make sure that I put a link to that in the show notes for you. But he has a very short and sweet quote that really packs a punch. Well, it certainly did for me. And he said that the shorter you sleep, the shorter your lifespan. That's it. Simple as that. No holds barred, no pretty bows on top of it. If you short your sleep, you short your life, basically, is what he's saying. And he's actually not wrong. I know for myself, for many years, in my younger years, I didn't realise how important sleep was. And I would actually short myself on sleep, especially when I was raising my children. As a parent, you have a lot of hats to wear, and sometimes something's got to give. And to me, one of the easiest things to give was my sleep. Well, it did a lot of damage to my health. And once I realised that it was one of the things that was damaging my health, I made changes. That was one of the biggest changes I made in my life, was to not short my sleep. And I am very, very careful of not pushing the boundaries of my sleep these days, because it is so important. So let's get into it. Melatonin, the sleep superhero. So we're going to cover off on what is melatonin, why is melatonin important, and how can you boost melatonin naturally. So melatonin is a hormone produced by the pineal gland in the brain. It helps to regulate your circadian rhythm, which is also known as the body's internal clock, which basically means that it just tells your body when it's time to be awake and when it's time to sleep. Production of melatonin kicks in as the daylight fades, which helps your body to recognize that it's starting to get closer to the time for you to go to sleep. So why is melatonin important? So when we get poor sleep, that impacts our mood, our focus, and even our ability to handle stress. It's really not healthy, and it causes a whole lot of problems in our bodies if we are not getting not only quantity of sleep, but good quality sleep as well. So how can you boost your melatonin levels naturally? I actually created a catchy little thing called the 4-5-3-2-1 sleep hygiene routine. And what that is a process that you go through, a little routine that you go through throughout the day, that will help you to get a better night's sleep and better quality of sleep. So a little bit counterintuitively, it actually starts in the morning, and that's what the number 4 is for. There's 4 hours in the morning that you want to get your sunlight in your eyes for at least 15 minutes. And the bracket of 4 hours is between 6 and 10 a.m. That's the ideal time. So if you can get 15 minutes worth of sunlight in your eyes between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. in the morning, that's ideal. if life happens and it's outside of that time, still getting sunlight in your eyes is still going to be beneficial, but the earlier the better, and that actually helps to regulate your circadian rhythm and kickstart melatonin production later in the day. So your good night's sleep actually starts in the morning. The 5 is for 5 hours before bedtime. So 5 hours before you're going to be going to bed, you want to stop all caffeine intake, because caffeine actually interferes with melatonin production. So avoid coffee, tea, green tea, any of those kinds of things late in the day. So if you generally go to bed about 10 o'clock at night, you don't want to be having any caffeine past 5 p.m. The 3 stands for 3 hours before bed. You want to stop eating and drinking alcohol. So if you have a glass of wine with dinner or something, you want to be stopping eating and drinking at least 3 hours before you go to bed. That's because you don't want to be going to bed with undigested food. You want your food to be digested before you go to sleep, and otherwise it can delay melatonin production, and also the same with alcohol consumption. It can delay melatonin production. So you need to give your body time to process these things before you're actually going to go to sleep. The 2 is for 2 hours before bed. Now this is one I put my hand up. I'm completely honest. I'm not always the best at stopping working 2 hours before bed. I'm definitely not always able to do that, but there are some things I do which I'll get into in a moment that will help with that, even if I can't stop work 2 hours before bed. But ideally, 2 hours before you're going to bed, you want to be stopping working. You want to avoid hot showers or baths, because that's going to raise your body temperature. And you don't want to raise your body temperature before you go to sleep. It's actually, when you're going to sleep, it's better if you're colder rather than warmer to get a good night's sleep and to actually get to sleep. And you want to dim your lights. You want to switch off any blue lights or any white lights. And if you still want light on, then it's really beneficial for you to switch to red lights. And that is because if you think about caveman days and the fact that the sunlight kicks off the melatonin production, and our circadian rhythm tells us to wake up. Basically, circadian rhythm is when the sun comes up, that's when we wake up. This is how our bodies are our circadian rhythms are meant to be. When the sun comes up, we wake up, and then when the sun goes down, that's when it's pretty much time to go to sleep. And think about back in caveman days, the lights that they had at night. They had firelight. That's all they had. And so that's what the body is used to at night. If you have light, it's a red light, or an orange light, a firelight. So that's it, to help your circadian rhythm. That's what you want. During the day, sunlight, and then at night time, if you want light, then have red lights. I have a way you can get that is to have salt lamps. I have salt lamps in every single room in my house. And in my living area, I have several salt lamps. I have a salt lamp basically in every corner. And then at night, when the sun goes down, and once I've finished in the kitchen, we have to have light. Once I've finished in the kitchen, then I turn off the white lights and I put all my salt lamps on, so that a good couple of hours before I'm going to bed, I'm not having any white lights, and I'm also not having blue light, because I take blue light. There are apps on your phone to take the blue light out at night, also on your computer, and I have that on my computer as well. And also, if you're watching TV at night, there's blue light blocking glasses and things like that you can have, so that you're cutting your blue light. So you want to do that at least 2 hours before you go to bed. And then last but not least, 1 hour before bed, that's when you want to turn off all screens, including your phone, because blue light from screens suppresses your melatonin. So ideally, you want to create a tech-free space to wind down. I will be honest, that doesn't generally happen with me. I'm generally working almost right up until I go to bed. But like I said, I've got the software to take the blue light out of my devices, and if I happen to be watching TV before I go to bed, then I'm using the blue light blocking glasses. So you got to do what works for you and your lifestyle, and any change that you make that's putting you in a better direction, that's leading you in a better direction, is a great step, and it's about progress, not perfection. So you just do what works for you. So some other things, some other ways that you can support your melatonin production is to stick to a consistent sleep schedule. So, it doesn't matter what time you go to bed at night, but if you can go to bed at the same time at night and get up at the same time the next morning on a regular basis as much as you can, be consistent with that, then that's really good for your circadian rhythm and for your sleep production. Your sleep quality. Obviously, life happens sometimes and it's not always going to be that way, but if you can just do it as consistently as possible. And one of the things that they definitely do say is even if you can get up at the same time every morning, regardless of what time you go to sleep, obviously, if it means you're only going to get 4 hours sleep, then get the extra sleep because your body really needs it. But if it's not going to if you're not going to short your sleep less than 6 hours, then still trying to get up at the same time, or still getting up at the same time every morning really, really helps. You want to be eating melatonin-rich foods. So there are some foods that you can eat that will help with that naturally contain melatonin, or help boost its production. And they include cherries, bananas, and pistachio nuts. So I don't know about you, I love all of them. So definitely no problem including them in our nutrition plans. And the other thing is creating a relaxing bedtime routine. So whatever is calming and relaxing for you, something that can signal your body that it's time to rest. So it could be reading, it could be meditating, it could be listening to some soft calming music, whatever it is, whatever's going to help you unwind. Create a routine around that so that, again, your consistency is key with any of this stuff. The more you do it consistently, the better off you're going to be. So that's pretty much all we're going to talk about with melatonin. I think that's enough. I really like to give people small, bite-sized chunks of information because it makes it so much easier to implement. And again, remember with any of this stuff that it's not about implementing all of it. It's about you choosing what you think is going to benefit you and the most, and starting with that. And if you want to implement more than one thing, great, but don't do it all at once, because when we try and implement too much at once, we end up not implementing anything because it's just too hard and overwhelming. All right, so for this episode, there is also a corresponding Be Me Bites edition, Be Me Bites 29, Feel Good Hormone Series Part 6. This is the last part in the series. Melatonin, the sleep superhero, how this hormone helps you rest and recharge. So if you go to check that out, there are always resources in there, extra resources in there that I don't put in the podcast show notes. And something in there will be helpful. Also, you'll be able to download from the resources a copy of the 4-5-3-2-1 sleep hygiene routine for you that you can print off and stick up somewhere, or put somewhere to help remind you while you're starting to implement it. So that could be really helpful for you. And generally things get into the podcast that aren't in generally there are things in the written edition that don't make it into the podcast because they're different formats. And I don't script my podcast. So definitely go and check that out. And as a bribe, if you become a subscriber to the Be Me Bites newsletter, then you get a free copy of any one of my free online copy of any one of my books of your choice. And when you subscribe, you will get an email that tells you how to claim that. So until the next episode, keep taking one step at a time, and I'll see you then. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Remember to check out the show notes, and if you have any comments, feedback or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. If you've received value from this podcast, make sure to subscribe, and I'd love you to rate and review the show. Have a fabulous day.